Welcome to Good Enough Lap Guide in the Ford Mustang GT4 at Indianapolis Road Course, your lap guide to move up through the splits. The purpose of this lap guide is to give you guys a solid foundation that you can build your lap off of. If you can get within 2 seconds of this lap time, run solid, consistent laps, and not making rash decisions, you're going to be able to move up through the splits. And the closer you get to lap time, the faster you're going to move up through the splits. You're going to get top 5s, top 3s. You're going to win those lower split races. Once you get up to this lap time or within about a second of it, you're going to be mid-pack in the top splits. First, we'll talk a little bit about the track characteristics of Indy Road Course. I think it's a great track for the GT4s because it does present some challenges when driving the GT4. For example, when you're coming out of turn 14, you really can't hammer down because the rear end just doesn't have the grip that you need to just be full throttle all the way through that corner. So it teaches you a lot of car control because when you're going through that corner, you're going to spin out if you don't modulate the throttle, and just be really sensitive with your steering and be really aware of what your car is doing. In addition to that, I really like the 7, 8, 9, 10 complex. I think it teaches you rhythm and weight transfer with the car because you need to get in a nice rhythm through there. You got to be comfortable with the weight transfer of the car, timing those corners. But other than that, I think it's a great track for the car, and it can teach you some things that you can carry forward to other tracks and other cars. Next, we'll talk about the car characteristics of the Mustang GT4. It has understeer on entry and middle, so you cannot overdrive the entry of the corner. You're just going to push wide on your apex. And then it's somewhat neutral on exit. It depends on how good you get your middle of the corner. If you get your middle of your corner right, you can rotate with the throttle coming out of the corner. Everything's fine. If you're trying to recover your corner and you get back on the throttle when you're still pushed out wide, it's going to keep pushing and then it's going to snap oversteer on you. So that's a really dangerous situation. So you just really need to make sure you get your entry and your middle of the corner right, and then you should be okay on exit. A special note for this track though is the last corner. You can get that entry and middle right, but you still have to be dancing on the throttle. You can't just mash it down. You don't have enough grip back there. The rear end's going to step out on you. And then even when you get to the point where you can go full throttle, the car is going to be basically rotating itself when you keeping the steering wheel straight, because it does have that oversteer in it. And in that high speed corner, you just don't have the grip in the back to have a real secure footing. So you'll have to get used to feeling the car wanting to slide a little bit on you as you're coming out of the corner. I think it's kind of half unnerving and half fun. I think it'll become more fun once I get more comfortable with the car, and then the nerves will start to go away once I understand what the car is going to do and it's a little bit more predictable. The weather for this lap was 71 degrees Fahrenheit or 21.6 degrees Celsius. The track temp was 98 degrees Fahrenheit or 36.6 degrees Celsius, and the lap time was a 1:32.295. I also had a request in the last video to add my sector time, so here they are. Alright, let's get into the lap. For turn 1, the braking point is going to be at the 600 marker. I have noticed I have to use a lot more brake pedal than I have had to use in the MX-5 or the BMW M2 or even the GT3 Ford Mustang. If you look at the telemetry, my braking will be almost to 98% when I go into this corner and a couple other corners, so real heavy braking going into the corner. Then it's going to be a middle late apex for the corner, try and not touch the curb. It's ideal to just barely touch the curb. You're going to need to find your rhythm for turns 1 and 2. You're not going to brake going into 2. You're just going to give it a little bit of throttle out of 1. You're going to lift off the throttle, and then you're going to turn into turn 2 for your middle late apex. It's all about rhythm here. It's going to take you a little while to figure it out. And then just hug the white line through 3. Don't touch the curb. Your braking point for turn 4 is as you're starting to naturally drift off this white line here, and it'll be towards the end of the curb on the right. And then it'll be a middle late apex for the corner. Hug the white line on exit to give you the optimal line through 5 and 6. Now the most important thing for turn 5 is do not go on the grass. There's a dip over there. You're going to hit that dip and it's just going to hook you to the left, and you're going to be in that tire barrier before you know it. But you can go on that curb, so you can take the curb, just don't go on the grass. And then for turn 6, you can cut this big time. The key is to keep your left side tires on some part of the curb. This is a great opportunity while we're getting into turn 7 to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. For turn 7, your braking point is going to be right at the start of the curb on the right. And again, notice how heavy my braking is here. And then it'll be a middle late apex for the corner. You just want to barely touch the curb, and you really want to get this corner right because it's going to set you up for the next 3 corners. Now we're going to get into the big rhythm part of the track. For this first corner here, we're just going to lift here. We're not going to brake. We're not going to lift through the next corner. We will give it a little brake going into turn 10. This will take you a little bit of time to get used to. The flow, the rhythm, it's going to take some practice. Just keep at it. Eventually a click, and it is a lot of fun going through here once you get it to click. For turn 8, we're going to take all this curb we can to the inside and just kind of ride it through the middle of the apex. We're going to do the same thing for turn 9. Take as much of the curb as you can. It's okay if you even take a little bit of the grass. It doesn't really unsettle the car too much. And then you just want to stay to the inside on exit, so it gives you the best line going through 10. And then for turn 10, it's just a little bit of braking just to slow you down enough to get the rotation to go into the corner. As we're going through the corner, you can cut a lot here. You just want to keep your left side tires on the curb. Any more in that, and they'll give you a slow down penalty. If you guys are liking this video, finding it helpful, please hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. As we're coming up to turn 12, there's no obvious braking markers, but you can see the poles on the fence. You want to brake about 4 or 5 poles before the first brake marker. And then it'll be a middle late apex for the corner. Ideally, you just want to barely touch the curb. Turn 13, you're going to start to brake when the alternative track on the left merges with the track we're on. Then we'll aim for a late apex in the corner. I like to keep it in second gear because I find the car more stable on exit when you get the power down. And then we come up to the last corner of the track, which I think is the hardest corner of the track because you're just lacking that rear grip through the middle of the corner. It's the fastest sweeping corner. You're trying to get the power down so you can get a good run on exit. If you watch the throttle trace, I'm about 80-90% throttle through the middle of the corner. And then as I get to full throttle, as we're getting through the end of the middle of the corner, you'll still see in my steering, the car's trying to rotate itself. The rear end still feels light. You really got to work with it, and you're kind of just drifting up to that outside wall. But I see this as a great opportunity for you to learn car control and understand how to drive the car in the limit and kind of work with the car as you're rotating through the corner. It's doing some of the driving and you're doing some of the driving. And that's your good enough lap guide in the Mustang GT4 at the Indianapolis road course. If you guys liked the video, found it useful, please hit that thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. I'm doing these every week, so you can subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.